Welcome back. We are on lesson number 9 of your Agile Practice Guide course for PMP or PMI-ACP exams. In the last lesson, we talked about story points and a lot of elements of Agile planning. We are continuing the discussion of Agile planning, and in this section, in this lesson number 9, we are going to talk about backlog refinement, a couple of other things related to that. Now, just a little bit of context before we talk about what we are going to cover in this. We talked about product backlog in lesson number 7, and now we are talking about product backlog refinement. There are 5 things that we will be covering in this lesson. First of all, what is backlog refinement? How is it done? Then how is prioritization of features done in Agile? What is spike? Then we will talk a little bit about product increment and release planning. So let's get started. Let's first understand what is backlog refinement. So we know what is a product backlog. Product backlog is a list of all the features and epics, every work item that the project needs to complete. Project team needs to complete is your backlog. Who makes it? Product owner makes it. Now, product owner also has one big responsibility, is to groom and prioritize the backlog. Now, what is grooming? In the beginning, all the tasks are listed. Now, as the team needs to pick those tasks for your sprint, as it becomes your sprint backlog, we've already covered this, then they need more details about it. They need to assess risk, they need to understand the stories well. So that process is called refinement. And then prioritization is which story or feature needs to be picked up first, which should have top priority, which should be medium priority, which should be low priority. So that is backlog refinement, backlog grooming, and then the topic of prioritization comes into it. Now, what do we say here? Backlog refinement, also called backlog grooming, is an ongoing process where the agile team reviews, updates, and improves the product backlog to ensure it is well organized and ready for upcoming sprints. Now, what are we saying here? They review it, they see what is there in the to-do list, what is there in the backlog, update. That is the change management aspect. I will talk in detail about that in this lesson. But update, say if there is a new request that has come in, so product backlog will be updated. Improves, they add more detail to features, they add more detail to stories. That is called improvement. And all those things are called product backlog grooming or refinement. Why are we doing it? So that your product backlog items, PBIs, are ready to be picked up by the teams in upcoming sprints. Who participates? Product owner, very important because they have the main accountability of doing this. Development team, your project team is going to be there, Scrum Master is going to be there, and if there is a stakeholder required from business or from customers, they can also participate. What happens in backlog refinement? How is it done? So first of all, they prioritize items based on business value. We will talk about prioritization techniques in the next section. Clarify requirements and expectations. If the team has doubts, okay, you're saying that we need to develop this feature. If the team has follow-up questions, if they want to understand what really means this requirement, what does it really mean, then they will ask questions and they will clarify their understanding. Break down large epics into features and user stories. We've already covered what are features, what are epics, and what are user stories. Estimate story points using planning poker or t-shirt sizing. We talked about these techniques in the previous lesson. So they do all of that. They remove outdated, unnecessary, deprioritized items from the backlog so that it is updated. Why is it important? We already talked about it a little bit. It ensures that backlog items are clear, prioritized, and ready for moving to sprints. Breaks down larger stories into smaller, manageable tasks. That is very important. You can't just pick large stories. They need to fit into the iterations. So all that work is done. helps the team estimate effort and identify dependencies. When story points are assigned, the team understands how much work is required to complete that story, how many stories will we be doing in this iteration, how much effort will we need to release this feature, all those things. It reduces surprises during sprint planning because the risks and everything details have been discussed during the grooming. How backlog refinement supports change management. I wanted to put this specific section here because when you prepare for your PMP exam, you study about the traditional predictive waterfall approach where there is a very robust integrated change control process. There is a process of incorporating changes, getting them approved and rejected and everything. You are aware of it if you're preparing for PMP. In Agile, changes are welcome. We talked about this. So the process is far more flexible. And backlog refinement is also a way to manage change. It incorporates new requests, new requirements, risk, features that are added. They'll go into the project backlog and they will wait for the team to refine it, groom it, and prioritize it accordingly. That's what change management process looks like. Reevaluate priority. There are again prioritization techniques which they use to reevaluate what needs to go first, what has more value for the customer, what has less value, and accordingly they'll prioritize. Breaks down big changes. Large shifts in direction can be incrementally refined. If somebody has requested a change, we will not start implementing it immediately. We will refine it and then we will slowly incorporate it into the backlog as per the value and the priority. Ensures team alignment. The team knows what is happening, they are aware of the changes, and they are in a position to accept and understand the changes. Now we will talk about prioritization techniques, but before we do that, we need to understand who is doing this prioritization, what is being prioritized, and why. Now you have a list of features that need to be developed. Okay, now if there are 10 stakeholders and they have suggested some items, and if you've been in real projects, you will know that everybody thinks that their request or the requirement that they have given should have topmost priority. So there are database techniques and there are processes that the teams follow to correctly prioritize features so that we provide most business value to the customers, and we also look at risks and dependencies. We will quickly talk about some of them. Simple scheme. Features are ranked high, medium, or low. The teams will discuss and they will rank the features into high, medium, and low priority, and accordingly they'll be picked up for development. MOSCO, it's a very well-known method. MOSCO stands for must have, should have, could have, won't have. So you will look at all the product backlog items and you will categorize them. Okay, this is essential. This feature needs to be there. That will be must have. This should be there but not urgent. That will be should have. Could have something which is nice to have, but if it is not there, there won't be such a big issue, so we can deprioritize it. And won't have is that, okay, we don't need it right now, we don't need to boil the ocean, we will not be developing it right now. So these are the 4 quadrants we discuss with the team, and we prioritize, we categorize all the product backlog items into these 4 categories. That is your MOSCO method. Monopoly money, again, it's a way to make things interesting, or all the stakeholders are allocated virtual money like you have in Monopoly game, and then they give that money or they assign that money to features that they think are important, and the feature that collects the most amount of money will be prioritized. Okay. 100-point method. So every stakeholder will have 100 points and then they will distribute those points across features. Okay, I think this should get a 25, this should get a 10, and based on that overall calculation, the features that have the most points will be prioritized. Dot voting, again a very conventional simple technique. Team members vote using dots and the most voted features are given priority. Cano analysis, it is discussed a lot in Lean Six Sigma also. What is it is basically understanding, it's an approach to prioritize features on a product roadmap based on degree to which they are likely to satisfy the customers. And there are some parameters, for example, basic need. This is expected. This feature needs to be developed, otherwise a product will not make sense. So that is your basic need. Performance needs. In order for this app to work, this feature is required. So it's a performance related need. So you need to work on it. Delighters. Features which will give high excitement, which the customers will like, but they are not expecting it at this point. So again, the priority can be decided based on that this is a delighter. If we do this, it'll have a very good impact, but if we don't do it, the customers are not going to miss it. So that is your Kano analysis method. Okay. That was your prioritization. Quick recap. We talked about product backlog, grooming, and refinement. We talked about prioritization. Now we are going to talk about spike. Now, say the team is together and with the product owner, they are understanding the stories and features, and they are doing the backlog refinement and prioritization. Everything is happening. Now, there is a specific request or feature that the team doesn't really understand much, or the product owner needs more information. They need to dig down a little, drill down a little bit more. That is called spiking a story or spiking a feature. Is like you take it out of the discussion, you take some time aside, you discuss it more in detail, and then you assess it. So during backlog refinement or planning, if the product owner is unsure about certain risks and features, they can ask the team to do a spike on the feature. There can be questions in your exam where they talk about a project scenario where the team is not able to understand something, or the risks associated with some feature are not clearly identified. The answer or possible solution can be to spike that feature, which simply means that you do some more research and come back with answers. So what is a spike? A spike is a time-boxed research activity where the team members explore and experiment with a feature. They sometimes create prototypes also to better understand risks, gather more information, and figure out how to solve a problem or how to understand more about the upcoming work. It helps clarify uncertainties. How is it done? I already talked about all this. When is a spike done? When spike is you A spike is used when the team faces unknowns that impact development, such as estimating effort. You're not able to understand how complex a feature is. You're not able to understand the acceptance criteria, which we already talked about in the previous lesson. That how will you know that this feature is complete? That story is complete. That is your acceptance criteria. Understanding user workflows. A request has come that you do this, add this feature in the app, but there are some backend systems and you need to understand the workflow. How is it actually going to look like? So you spike that feature for that. Exploring new technology where the team doesn't know much about something, so they need more time to understand. That is your spike. How is it done? Quickly, we can talk about it. The team identifies the risk area or the topic that they want to talk about. Time box is set, 1 or 2 days. The team conducts research, prototyping, technical analysis. Findings are shared and decisions are made. In simple terms, you're just taking more time to discuss something more in detail. Now, I put an example here. You can pause and read the example. It is an example of a case where the team is asked to add biometric login and they don't understand how the backend system is going to support that, what are the security risks, and so they do a spike and they assess all the aspects of that feature. Okay, now we move on to our next topic, which is product increment. Now I want you to visualize it a little. You have a list, this side, you have a list of all the features that need to be developed, epics features, work items, which is your PBI, which is your product backlog items. From that, the team took three and they worked on those three in one sprint. So those three are done. So you put them in the done list. Then again 3 are taken. Then again they are put in the done list. So this increment that is building 3 plus 4 plus 5 and it's going on growing, that's your product increment. Part of the product that is completed after each sprint. It is used for sprint review and for getting feedback from product owner or customer. Team and product owner need to agree upon a definition of done. This we discussed already in the in lesson number 8, that definition of done is basically a criteria to understand when the work is considered completed. So that is required for product increment to qualify as done. Now we'll talk about release planning. What is a release? Now release, let me just pull this thing up. You are working on some features, okay, and if you remember we talked about incremental delivery, continuous delivery in Agile, that you need to continuously develop working software. That's the Agile manifesto that talks about. So a release is a workable, deployable, implementable version of the product. A release in Agile is a deployable version of the product that includes a set of completed features or user stories. A release can happen after one or multiple sprints. Goal is to deliver working valuable software to users. Release planning is the process of deciding which features will be delivered. So we understood what is release. Now what is release planning? To decide what are the features, what are the stories that will make a release happen, and how many iterations will be needed. It involves all key stakeholders. It helps align expectations. So it's a collaborative meeting that happens, that okay, after 3 iterations we will have completed this feature, and that is a release that is going to be completed. Now I put a small example for you to understand. Say, example, deploying an e-commerce website. So what is the goal? Release a new checkout system in 3 months. Now each sprint delivers a piece of the final product. Now you look here, sprint 1 or 2, they developed one feature. Sprint 3 to 4, they developed another feature. Sprint 5 to 6, they developed another one. All of these features. Now this is your product increment. Now all of this put together makes your release. So fully functional checkout system is released. Now the larger project is to make the website, but the checkout process is one of the epics or features which is released as a result of these sprints. Okay, so this was your release planning. Quick recap. In this lesson, we talked about product backlog grooming, refinement, prioritization, and then we talked about spike. Then we talked about product increment and release planning. They are all a part of your Agile planning process. All right. I hope it was clear to you. Please let me know in comments if you have questions. I will see you in lesson number 10 and we will talk about Agile metrics. Till then, bye-bye and thank you.